This conference will now be recorded.
My screen is visible. So today we are going to discuss about Docker networking. Okay, Docker networking and Docker Compose. Okay, Docker networking and Docker Compose. And if time permits, and we will see what are namespaces and C groups. So these are theoretical only. So because these are internal part of Docker engine and Docker containers. So we don't need to worry about practicals because these are related to CPU network and everything. Okay. So coming to this Docker networking. Okay. Coming to this Docker networking. So we know that we are creating multiple containers on single host. Okay. We know that we are creating multiple containers on single host. But did you ever think that these containers are communicating or not? So we need to think if the communication between these containers is happening or not. So by default, when you install, when you create containers on a single Docker machine, okay, when you create containers on a single Docker machine, let's take an image. So let's say, for example, these are containers. Okay, the purpose of containers is to isolate and deploy the multiple applications on different containers. Okay, we are deploying these applications on host. Okay, we are deploying these applications on host. So C1, C2, C3. Let's say, for example, C3. So we are creating multiple containers and we are deploying these applications on multiple containers. Okay, like HTTP or whatever it is. Okay, Tomcat or Nginx. But have you ever think of like these containers are communicating or not? Because container, there is what is it? So there is a necessity that these containers should communicate with each other. Okay, so this is not mandatory to what is it? It is not mandatory to communicate with all containers. Okay, so it is not mandatory like C1 should communicate with C2, C2 should communicate with C3, and C1 it should communicate with C3. So it is not mandatory like that, but the communication should happen between the containers. Okay, the communication should happen between the containers. Let's say, for example, if there is an application called WordPress. Okay, this is a web application. Okay, web server like HTTP, and it requires one database, MySQL. Okay, it requires one SQL. So if you install WordPress on one container, I mean, if you create one WordPress container, and if you create one MySQL container, these containers should communicate definitely, because when you create some user in this WordPress, okay, generally you can create users in this WordPress. When you create some user in this WordPress, okay, this MySQL should store the data of the user. Okay, MySQL should store the database of the user, right? So for that purpose, the communication between these containers should happen. Okay, whereas you may deploy one other application. Okay, for example, HTTPD or any other application. It does not require any communication with these two containers. Okay, these two containers. So we can achieve that by using Docker networking. Okay, we can achieve that by using Docker networking. So Docker networking is, or else Docker networking provides communication between multiple containers Okay, Docker networking provides communication between multiple containers. Now, next point is, if we go to Docker networking official documentation, So by default, these containers, all the containers created on host will communicate through one network called bridge network. Default bridge network. Okay, by default bridge network. So all these containers will communicate to default bridge network. But this is not necessary, like, we don't need to provide communication between all these containers. I only need to provide communication between container 1 and container 2, and this should be separated from these containers. Okay, so if you have a question, if anyone asks you, like, what is the like, default, what is the network that is default between, what is it, all these containers, you can say, like, the name itself is saying default bridge network. Okay, default bridge network is the network that provides communication between all the containers, okay, which are created on single host. Okay, now we go to official documentation. So here, if you see overview, one of the reasons Docker containers and services are so powerful is that you can connect them together or connect them to non-Docker workloads. Docker containers and services do not even need to be aware that they are deployed on Docker. Okay, so meaning is, containers may or may not know that, it's being deployed in single, what is it? It's being deployed in host, but the communication should happen. That's why, that's how, like, when two containers communicate, that is enough for the containers. That's what this sentence is trying to say, like, or whatever is also Docker workloads or not. Okay, this is nothing but when you ping to from one container to other container, it should happen. Okay, we are going to see that in practical. Okay, so Docker host run Linux, Windows, or Mac, mix of two. You can use Docker to manage them in platform agnostic way. Meaning is, you can create the communication not only in Linux-based containers. You can create the communication on any containers, like Windows based containers, or any other operating system. Okay, so by default, to provide communication between these, containers, we have concept called drivers. Okay, drivers, these are internal. Okay, drivers are nothing but, let's say, for example, when you operate any installing system, when you install any operating system on your plain laptop, let's say, for example, definitely, if you're if you're working, if you install Windows on Dell laptop, you need Dell drivers. Okay, and if you install what is it, Windows operating system on HP, you need HP drivers. What these drivers will do, let's say, for example, you want to hear the audio, right? Audio of this computer, and you want to see the video of this computer, and you want to connect your mouse to computer. So what are you doing? You're trying to, what is it, connect hardwares, and you're trying to connect hardwares, and that should read and that should access the, what is it, software. Okay, so for that purpose, what we have plugins, sorry, we have drivers. Okay, drivers. In the same way, to connect containers, okay, we have network drivers. Okay, to connect containers, we have network drivers. These are nothing but the networking names. Okay, so if you see this, bridge network. Okay, so generally this is the one which we use in real time. Okay, real time in the sense, the organizations by default will create custom network. Okay, the default network will be default. Okay, when you install when you create multiple containers on one single host, so the default network will be default only. But when you want to create a custom bridge, okay, there are two types of networks. One is default bridge, and second one is custom bridge. If you want to create a custom bridge, we can achieve that. Okay, we're going to see, like, how to create in a couple of minutes. So this is nothing but bridge network. The default network driver, okay, is this meaning is nothing but we have one default bridge network, and also we can create a custom network. If you don't want to specify a driver, this is a type of network you are creating. Okay, bridge networks are usually used when your applications run in standalone containers that need to communicate. Meaning itself is nothing but when you want your containers to be communicated for any purpose. Okay, let's say, for example, I told you, right, WordPress, sorry, and it's MySQL. So they need to connect because there is a purpose. If you create users, MySQL should store the database. So for that purpose, we are creating we are providing communication between those two containers. So like that, we have to create one bridge between those two containers, okay, and then they will communicate. So now host network is it's nothing but standalone communicate containers remove network isolation between the container and the Docker host. Meaning itself is, see, um, if you see this image, so here if you create containers, container will be having separate IP and this will be having separate IP. Okay. So now this host network, if you create, what it will happen is container itself will act as one host. Okay. Container itself will act as one host. So that is for achieving high performance, but generally host networks we don't use because it will create a lot of confusion when you are creating other containers using the same host. Okay, so that will create a lot of confusion. For that purpose, this most of the time people avoid using host network. So overlay network is nothing but when you want to create, let's say for example, we have one single host. Okay, we have one single host, the server. Let's say for example, if you have one more server, okay, if you have one more server and one more containers. Like is you have one more server on top of one more server, you have different containers. Okay, and if you want to provide this, if you want to provide communication between these Docker these things, what is it, host and containers, they use concept called overlay network. Okay, so overlay networks connect multiple Docker demos together and enable Swarm service to communicate with each other. We are going to see Swarm next in the next class. Okay, so you can also use overlay networks to facilitate communication between Swarm service and this standalone container, or between two standalone containers on different Docker demos. Okay, meaning is overlay network is it provides communication between two separate Docker demos. Okay, two separate Docker host machines. So you can ignore this. We don't use this setup. One another thing is what we need to know is, see, ultimately in practical we are going to do this bridge network because we use this only one Docker networking. But we need to have an idea like what is this macula, what is this overlay, and what is host network. So this macula network allows you to assign MAC address to a container, making it appear as a physical device on your network. Okay, the Docker demo routes the traffic to containers using MAC address. The meaning is when you want to provide communication between two containers in this network, generally in bridge network you can see IP addresses, but in this you can see MAC address format. Okay, MAC address format is nothing but it will be something like some random digits, say 000883. Here you can see this. Okay, like this, they cannot identify like what is the IP behind it. So like this, if you want to provide IP, this type of address you can provide instead of IP, you can provide MAC using this service. What is this? Docker networking. Okay. So network plugin is nothing but it's a third party. You can install third party network plugins. Okay, it will be available from Docker. So if you want to install any third party applications, you can install it. But most of the time, 99% of the time, okay, in the organizations we use bridge network. Okay, because it is quite simple, easy to provide. So simple and easy to provide communication between containers. So now today we are going to do some practicals on this bridge network. And to explain this bridge network, okay, what I'm going to do is okay. So network one. network 2. Let's take it as C1, C2, C3. Okay. So I want to create two containers, two networks, and create the containers. Okay, the containers. At first, what I will do is I will create network one. Okay, I'll create network. I'll create these two containers, C1 and C2 with network one. Okay, C1 and C2 with network one, and I will create this container with separate network, C3 with separate network. Now, what I want to do is I will check if the connection happens between C1 and C2. Okay, the connection by default it should happen because they are on same network. And if you check the communication between C1 and C3, it won't happen because they are on different network. So the communication between C1 and C3 it should not work. It's a different network. And later I want to do one more activity. What is that is nothing but I want to connect this C2 with the network 2. Okay, meaning my container, this container, it can run on multiple networks. Okay, it can run on multiple networks. So what should happen ultimately? Connection should happen between these two. Okay, the connection should happen between these two, and the connection should happen between these two. But communication should not happen between C1 and C3. Okay, because C1 and C2 are in network 1. Okay, C1 and C2 are network 1, so they can communicate. C2, C3 are on network 2, so that they can communicate. Okay, so because this is hosted on multi-networking, okay? We attach this container to network 1 and network 2 as well. So this is part of two networks. But the C1 and C3, if you see this, they are part of only one network. Okay, they are part of only one network. So that is why the communication should not happen between C1 and C3. Communication should happen between C1 and C2. So the first step is we will create networks, and then we will provide communication. We will check the communication between the containers. Okay, this is my server. This is root, right? Now Docker network -h. So if you say this Docker network command, so connect is to connect, create is to create, Docker network create, and network will give you what do you say, how to create a network. And Docker network inspect, it will, if you want to inspect the network, it will tell you the information about IP address and all. ls is to list, and prune, prune is to completely remove network. rm is to remove only one network. Okay, rm is to remove only one network. Prune, if you do it, it will delete all the networks. Now let's try to create two networks. Docker network create. I would like to name my network as mynet1. Okay, I would like to name my network as mynet1. Is it? Okay, so I think I have already created these networks. Okay, let's create new networks. Okay, I would like to name these networks as network 1. Okay, and also I would like to name these networks as network 2. Second one is network 2. If you do this, network ls, it will show network 1 and network 2. These are custom networks. The type is bridge network. Okay, the type is bridge network. This is nothing but network ID. Local in the sense it is created in this server. Okay, so what we can do is let's clear this thing. Now I'll check for containers. Docker. Yes, I don't have any containers. Docker images. I don't. Okay, let's remove this image. What is it? Strange. Okay. Now what we'll do is, anyway, that is not necessary. We will see. We'll create one container. Okay, that is my mesh. We have C1 here, right? So container 1. Let's create container 1 with network 1. Okay. Docker run. I want it in interactive mode. Okay, I want it in interactive mode. -it and -hyphen name. My container name should be container 1. Okay, container 1, and I would like to provide my network. So to provide my network, you need to give network like this and the network name. Okay, network name is network 1. Now we have one what do you say, Linux flavor called busybox. Okay, we have one Linux flavor called busybox. So till now we have seen so many images like we have seen HTTPD, Nginx, Tomcat, and all what do you say, SQL related images. But you should know this busybox as well. This simple Linux what do you say flavor. It is nothing but it acts as like it acts like one Ubuntu or Red Hat. It's like one simple Linux box. Okay, Linux box. I am trying to use this image, busybox image. Okay, busybox image. So this is for testing containers. Okay, this is for testing containers and to launch shells. Okay, to launch shell to perform some basic operations. If in future going forward, if you want to test anything, okay, in your real-time environment, so you can do that by using this busybox image. So what it is saying, busybox latest, I'm able to find it locally, and it has created the container and it has directly opened this shell. Okay, it has directly opened this shell. Now I want to exit this shell. I want to exit this shell without disturbing it. Okay, I mean without stopping it. What I can do is control PQ. Okay, control PQ. Now I want to create one more container with same network, container 2 and network 1 busybox. Okay, container 2 network 1 busybox. So let's see this. So busybox image is already present, so that's why it is creating. That's why it is creating this container and directly opening this terminal. Okay, directly opening this terminal. Now let's try to exit this container as well. Okay, let's try to exit this container as well. Let's check Docker PS. So these are shell containers, meaning generally when we want to log into any container, we use pin bash at last, right? We need to use sh here, and containers are created. Container names are container 1 and container 2. Now I want to inspect in the sense I want to check on the container IP and their network. Okay, Docker inspect container 1. If you say this, forget about this information. It will provide all the internal information like memory, CPU. If you want to check the container information, it will provide the complete information. But what we are discussing is network, right? So just directly come to this network section below. Here, if you see this, here under networks, you have network name network 1. Okay, and here if you see this IP address, just copy this IP address in the notepad. This is container 1. Okay, this is container 1. And likewise, I would like to check IP address of container 2. This is container 2. And if you see this is also on same network. Okay, network 1. IP address, we need to copy IP address. Okay, container 2. Now, if you go to this image, what is my primary task? First, we created container 1 and container 2 with this image, right? This this network 1. So by default, my containers, 2 containers should communicate. Okay, my 2 containers should communicate. How can I check that? So in the networking Linux, if you want to check the connectivity between 2 servers, what is the command?
Ping.
Yes. Okay. And the next question is, I want to log into this container. Okay. I want to log into this container.
Okay. Docker exec -it container id /bin/bash.
But instead of /bash, you need to use sh here because this is a type sh type image. This busybox is a sh type image. That's why it has created this. Okay. Sh.
Okay.
Now let's type it. Docker exec -it container name or container ID, you can use anything. /bin /sh. And I want to, this is my container 2. Okay, this is my container 2. I want to ping container 1. Ping container 1. See, we are getting some response, right? Meaning the communication is happening between 2 containers. Communication is happening between 2 containers. Now what I can do is control PQ. So again, you don't need to go to container 1 and check ping container 2 IP address. See the communication, how it happens. If you send something, if you hit something, it should get the response, right? Meaning the communication is happening between 2 servers. Okay. So the next topic is you have to create one more container with a different network. Okay, I'm going to use same busybox image and network 2 and container 3. Okay, container 3. If you understand this command, docker run -it -name, I want to create container 3 with the network 2. I want to create this with the network 2, and I'm using busybox image. Okay, it has opened shell. Okay, it has opened shell. Now container 3 is created. Let's try to do control PQ. See, and let's clear this screen. Docker yes. So container 3 is created. If you say this, container 3 is created, and I want to inspect the IP address of this container. you see this is the IP address of container. Okay, it is on network. Here if you see this, networks network 2. Okay, container 3. What I want to achieve is, I want to check the communication if it is happening with these two containers. Okay, with these two containers. Let's log into this. Okay. So now you are inside this container. Okay, inside the container, this container C3, it is having different network. Okay, let's say for example, for easy recognition purpose, so case is now like this. Okay, case is now like this. Network 1, C1 and C2 are network on network 1, and we created C3 with network 2. Even communication should not happen between C1 and C3 as well, C2 and C3 as well. Okay, this is the first case. Let's check this. Here's my timeline. Yeah, right. Let's check with container 1 IP. You say this, you are not getting any response. You are not getting any response. So meaning communication is not happening. Enter Control C and use up arrow and copy pick second ping. What is the second network address? IP address. See, communication is not happening. So from C3, container 3, communication to container 1 and container 2 is not happening because you see this image. Why communication is not happening? C3 is on network 2.
Different network.
C1 and C2 are on network 1. Okay, that's why the communication is not happening. But we checked from C2. Communication is happening between these two containers. Okay, it will be like this because they are on same network. Now what I want to achieve is, I want to connect this container to network 2. Okay, I want to connect this container to network 2. So what happens? These two, C2 and C3, they will be on same network. These two, C1 and C2, and these are on same network. So by default, there should be communication between C1 and C2. By default, there should be communication between C2 and C3. But the communication should not happen between C1 and C3. Okay, communication should not happen between C1 and C3 because they are not on same network. Okay, now let's try to do that. Control P. So anyway, Docker PS. You see this? These are all running containers only. Okay, these are all running containers only. I want to attach my container to the network 2. For that, command is docker network connect. To which network you want to connect? Network 2, right? You give network 2, and then next thing is container 2. I want to connect my container 2 to network 2. Okay, see this image. I want to connect my container 2 to network 2. Okay, enter. If you want to check if it is really connected or not, docker inspect. container 2. You say this at the end in the network section. So it is created network 1. So it is attached to network 1 and as well as network 2. Network 1, network 2. Okay. So see, IP address is same 172.21.03. Sorry, IP address is a bit changed. Okay. But for the container, for the network, the IP address is a bit changed. Let's see the communication if it is happening or not. Okay. There is this. I want to achieve the communication between C2 and C3 should happen. C2 and C3 should happen, and C1 and C2 should happen. Let's see this. First, I want to log into C2. Docker exec FMIT container 2 /bin /sh. Okay, /sh. What I will do is I just logged into container 2 and let me check. So this communication is happening. Okay, this communication is happening. Now from container 2 we are able to communicate with container 1. Let's do control C. Ping container 3. So my container 2 is able to communicate with container 3, meaning see this image, C2 is able to communicate with C1 as well as C3. Let's check communication between C3 and C1. Control C and control PQ. Now I would like to log into container 3 and I would like to check container 1 IP address. See, we are not getting any response. From container 3, I just print container 1. We are not getting any response. So do control C. Control PQ. Control PQ. Okay. So this is all about containers, and we can remove network containers using network. So you can remove network using Docker network RM. Let's take this. Let's take the name. Docker network ls. See, network mynet1 is deleted. It's not in the list. Okay. If you want to delete all networks, you can use prune. Okay. So that is about networks. Now so if I provide all the comments, will you be able to understand like what are the activities that I have done? Description రాయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు కానీ
Yes, yes.
Okay, so Docker network create less commands important. Make అవసరం లేదు. ఇన్స్పెక్ట్ కంటైనర్ వల్ల ఇది కావాలి. ఓకే, ఏదైనా షార్ట్ కట్ అవుతుంది డిలీట్ చేయడానికి. ఓకే, నేను ఇది తర్వాత ప్రిపేర్ చేస్తాను, నోట్స్ ప్రిపేర్ చేసిన తర్వాత మీకు పంపిస్తాను. బట్ దీనివల్ల ఇంకా అదర్ టాపిక్స్ కూడా ఉన్నాయి. సో అర్థమైంది డాకర్ నెట్వర్కింగ్. ఏదైనా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉన్నాయా? హలో,
క్లియర్, నాకైతే క్లియర్.
హరి, శ్రీకాంత్, ఎనీ క్వశ్చన్స్? ఉన్నారా? Okay, so let's discuss other topic. Today's other topic which is nothing but Docker Compose. Okay, Docker Compose. Delete this. Okay, so what is this Docker Compose actually? Let's say for example, I told you one best example for providing from container to container communication, right? This WordPress and MySQL. They need to work in together. What do you say? These containers should communicate continuously. And if you want to create these containers, okay, if you want to create these containers with one script, let's say for example it is YAML script. Okay, Docker Compose works on YAML script. So you want to create different containers which are required to be, what is it, communicated. So if you want to create such kind of containers with one single script, you can use concept called Docker Compose. Okay, you can use concept called Docker Compose. Basically, Docker Compose is nothing but Docker Compose is a Docker service create multi-containers multiple containers on single system or else using one script. Okay, using single YAML script. Let's go to the official documentation of this. So this is the best example. Okay, Docker is a tool. Compose is a tool for defining and running multi-container Docker applications. With Compose, you can use a YAML file to configure your application services. Then, with a single command, you can create, start all them services on configuration. Okay, we'll take this official definition. Why I am copying all these official definitions are like, whenever you check these notes next time, you'll remember the concept easily, and going forward, if anyone asks you like, what is this Docker Compose, you'll remember it. You can answer that. Okay. So there are certain things. First thing is we need to install Docker Compose. Okay, we need to install Docker Compose. We need to install Docker Compose on server. So basically, this installation, it is quite simple. Okay, first let's check Docker Compose version. So there is this command Docker Compose ---- version is there. Let's check this. So Docker Compose version is there. Let's check Docker -compose. Let's check this. Okay, let's check this first. So installation process will be like this. Okay, so first command is like this: sudo apt-get update, and I'm checking about this plugin actually. Okay, I'm checking about this plugin. Now we have to use this. I think it's already present in this machine. So here first step is so in your server you just follow these steps. Okay, sudo apt-get apt-get update and sudo apt-get install Docker Compose plugin. Okay, and if you check Docker Compose version, you should create a version. Okay, so this is quite simple. If, we are using only Ubuntu, right? So that, for that purpose, just use this. Now what I want to try is, this is a YAML script. Okay, this is a YAML script. So syntax will be like this: docker -compose .yml. Okay, docker -compose .yml. Okay, we need to create one file like this. Inside this file we need to write the configuration. Okay, and you need to start docker -compose up. What this will command will do, to create containers, mentioned in the script. Okay, so it will create the containers which are mentioned in the script. Docker Compose down is there. Okay, delete containers, delete containers. It's right like this, mentioned in Docker Compose file. Okay, so let's write like this. And
Wait, hello. A Docker Compose down కదా సాయికరణ్ అది ఎడిట్ చేయండి.
okay. So Docker Compose down. So Docker Compose stop is also there to stop the applications. Okay, So I want to take this is my mesh. Yeah, I want to take one WordPress and one SQL. Okay, let's create this. So what we can do is I want to create one WordPress containers, on MySQL. Okay, if you check what is this WordPress, this is a PHP based application. Okay, so this is PHP based application. WordPress is a free open source content management system written in PHP. Okay, and is paired with MySQL database. They should work in combination. Okay, or MariaDB database with supported HTTPS features. So meaning is this is a simple web-based web application. Okay, simple web-based application. If you want to create users in it, you can create it. By default, this the user information will be saved in this MySQL database. Now, I want to write YAML file. Okay, so generally for writing YAML file, what we'll do, we'll give -3 hyphens. What is it? We followed that script in Ansible playbooks, right?
Ansible.
Yes, but here I don't want to take that pain. Okay, here Docker itself is providing so many examples. Okay, Docker itself is providing so many examples. If you go to Docker Hub, just type WordPress. Okay, so you don't need to write anything, but you should be able to understand, like, what is the content inside it. If you come down, say here, if you see this Docker stack deploy or Docker compose, what he's saying is you can write Docker compose like this. Okay, first let me copy this and create one YAML file. Okay, if you want me to explain this, first thing is this script should identify that it is a YAML script. For that, we need to give 3 hyphens here. Now, I want to use 3.1 version. Okay, I want to use 3.1 version, and I want to what do you say? I want to create a WordPress container and SQL containers. Okay, SQL container. For that, modules will be WordPress and S3. Under the services, it will come. Okay, WordPress and DB. WordPress and DB. So after modules, we need to declare our variables, right? So we're going to declare that. So image is WordPress. Restart always in the sense in production. If something goes down, like in computer, if suppose if container is down, it should be able to automatically restart. That's why we're writing this. And also for any web application, we need port, right? So we are going to use 8080 port. Okay. For environment, environment is nothing but it should have WordPress DB host, DB username, DB password, DB name. Okay, so it should have that details for this application. So in this page, if you see this, they are using this simple DB, example DB. What is it? Like the name as DB, example user, example password. You can create anything. Okay, you can change the names. Just for time being, okay. And if you take this volumes, okay, volumes. Yesterday we discussed about volume concept, right? So WordPress wants to use this directory as volume. Okay, this directory as volume. So it will be created with this name only. The container volume is this one. Meaning నేను ఏం చెప్తున్నా అంటే వర్డ్ ప్రెస్ నేమ్ తోటి వాల్యూమ్ క్రియేట్ అవుతుంది. కంటైనర్ లో వచ్చేసి ఈ ఇక్కడ వేర్ www.html లో ఏమంటారు మనకి డైరెక్టరీ క్రియేట్ అవుతుంది. ఎందుకంటే ఇది వెబ్ అప్లికేషన్ కాబట్టి అక్కడ ఏదైనా మనం మోడిఫికేషన్స్ చేస్తే నిన్న చేసిన /data01. సో /data01 అనేది /var/w/html. సో వర్డ్ ప్రెస్ అనేది మనం వాల్యూమ్ అని క్రియేట్ చేసాం అలా అనుకోండి. ఓకే, సేమ్ వే database version MySQL 5.7 తీసుకున్నాం కదా. Restart always because if container goes down it should automatically restart. So environment వచ్చేసి MySQL database username, database username, password, okay, and random root password. For example, these are the variables that are required for creating this DB and this WordPress. Okay, జనరల్గా ఇవి మనకి ఎలా తెలుస్తాయి, ఏం క్రియేట్ చేయాలంటే మనం టెన్షన్ పడాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. ఇక్కడికి వచ్చి చూసుకోవచ్చు దానికి రిక్వైర్మెంట్స్ ఏమేమి కావాలి, కేవలం మన వాల్యూస్ చేంజ్ చేసుకుంటే సరిపోతుంది. ఓకే, సో వాల్యూమ్స్ వర్డ్ ప్రెస్ DB ఆ నేమ్స్ తో క్రియేట్ అవ్వాలి కదా, అందుకని ఇక్కడ సపరేట్ గా పెట్టాడు అనమాట. నౌ escape wk, let's check docker compose. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ ఏం చెప్తున్నాడంటే డాకర్ -compose అనేది లేదని మనకు అర్థం అవుతుంది. sudo apt install అది ఎందుకు అంటుందంటే స్టార్టింగ్ మార్నింగ్ నేను ఏం చేశానంటే నేను ఫస్ట్ ఇలా వచ్చినప్పుడు రీస్టార్ట్ చేద్దాం, డాకర్ సర్వీస్ రీస్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది ఇప్పుడు. సో ఎందుకు అంటుందంటే మార్నింగ్ మీకు డాకర్ కంపోజ్ ఇన్స్టాల్ చేయడం చూపించడానికి నేను అన్ఇన్స్టాల్ చేశాను. డాకర్ sudo apt రిమూవ్ డాకర్ -compose అని చెప్పేసి అన్ఇన్స్టాల్ చేశాను. అదొక మాడ్యూల్ అన్నమాట, డాకర్ కంపోజ్ మాడ్యూల్. ఓకే, సో అది ఇన్స్టాల్ చేయాలి మనం. మీకు ఒకవేళ డాకర్ కంపోజ్ ఇలా ఎర్రర్ వస్తే అట్లా ఇన్స్టాల్ చేయాలి, గుర్తుపెట్టుకోండి. sudo apt install docker -compose అని కొట్టండి. ఓకే, నౌ docker compose apt, let's see this. So what this script is doing is it is pulling WordPress image, MySQL image, and it is trying to create containers out of it. Okay, it's trying to create containers out of it. సో ఈ WordPress యాక్సెస్ చేయాలంటే నాకు మనం 8080 పోర్ట్ ఎనేబుల్ చేసి ఉండాలి. సో ఇక్కడ చూస్తే ఇన్స్టెన్స్ సెక్యూరిటీ గ్రూప్ లో 8080 పోర్ట్ ఎనేబుల్ చేసి ఉండాలి. సో నేను ఆల్రెడీ చేశాను. ఓకే, let's try to check if it is working or not. Okay, so let's take the public IP of this machine and సో ఇలా వస్తుంది. వర్డ్ప్రెస్ ఇన్స్టాల్ అయింది. బట్ మనం ఏం చేద్దామంటే తీసేసి స్టాప్ చేసి మళ్ళీ స్టార్ట్ చేద్దాం. లేదు, security groups. If you check this, I enabled port 8080. Okay. Okay. Now let's say this public IP. Just reload this. Okay, it's our connectivity very good. Restart this another. Let's do one thing. PS minus. Okay. So WordPress and MySQL container is created. Let's start these containers and we'll check the service. Okay. Let's see this. So WordPress install అయింది. ఓకే, వర్డ్ప్రెస్ అయితే ఇన్స్టాల్ అయింది. బట్ మీకేం రావాలంటే, నేను ఆల్రెడీ ఒక ఎగ్జాంపుల్ క్రియేట్ చేశా కాబట్టి పేజ్ ఇలా వస్తుంది. మీకు ఫస్ట్ ఫ్రెష్గా వస్తుంది అనమాట పేజ్. నేను హిస్టరీ డిలీట్ చేయాలి మోస్ట్లీ. లెట్స్ చెక్ ఇన్ అదర్ బ్రౌజర్. ఓకే,
WordPress వచ్చింది సాయికిరణ్.
అర్థం కాలేదు ప్రియాంక.
WordPress వచ్చింది కదా వెబ్ పేజ్.
ఇన్స్టాల్ అయింది, నేను మీకు చూపించాలనుకున్నది కాదు. వర్డ్ప్రెస్ ఎప్పుడు ఇన్స్టాల్ అయింది, కంటైనర్స్ కూడా క్రియేట్ అయిపోయింది, సర్వీస్ కూడా స్టార్ట్ అయిపోయింది. సో నేను ఆల్రెడీ ఇందాక ఒకసారి వర్డ్ప్రెస్ చేసి చూసాను, ఇది వర్క్ అవుతుందా స్క్రిప్ట్, ఎందుకంటే ఓల్డ్ స్క్రిప్ట్స్ వర్క్ అవ్వవు కదా, చేసి చూసాను. సో మీకు స్టార్టింగ్ పేజ్ అనేది ఒకటి రావాలి, అది ఇటు లాస్ట్ యూజర్ నేమ్ అండ్ పాస్వర్డ్. ఓకే, అది రావట్లేదు, దాని గురించి చూస్తున్నాను నేను. అది మీకు వస్తుంది కన్ఫర్మ్ గా, మీరు ఆల్రెడీ ఎందుకంటే హిస్టరీ క్లియర్ చేసి బ్రౌజర్ హిస్టరీ అప్పుడు ట్రై చేయాలి. అర్థమైందా నేను చెప్పిన కాన్సెప్ట్?
ఓకే ఓకే అర్థమైంది.
అలా చేస్తే మీకు వర్డ్ ప్రెస్ వచ్చేసి స్టార్టింగ్ వేరేలా వస్తుంది. ఆ యూఐ చూపించడానికి నేను ట్రై చేస్తున్నాను. ఆల్రెడీ నేను ఇన్స్టాల్ చేశాను కాబట్టి ఇప్పుడు నాకు ఇలా వస్తుంది. మీకు అప్పుడు ఏమొస్తుందంటే
ఇది MySQL డేటాబేస్ కి పోర్ట్ 3306 అన్న ఒకటి ఉంటుంది చూడు, దాంతో పని లేదా మనకి, అవసరం లేదా?
అవసరం లేదు. ఇక్కడ బ్యాక్ ఎండ్ లో వాడుకుంటాం మనం, ఏమంటే డైరెక్ట్ గా కనెక్ట్ అవుతుంది, డీబీ బ్యాక్ ఎండ్ లో వాడుతాం అన్నమాట దీనికి. ఓకే, సో యాక్చువల్లీ నేను ఇందాక ఒక నిమిషం, సో ప్రజెంటేషన్స్ ఇవ్వట్లేదని విన్నా. అంటే నేను ప్రజెంటేషన్స్ ఇవ్వండి, మీకు లాట్ ఆఫ్ కంటెంట్ దొరుకుతుంది డెవాప్స్ AWS లో. ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తున్నారు, డైలీ ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తూ ప్రజెంటేషన్స్ ఇవ్వండి, అది మీకు యూజ్ అవుతుంది. ఓకే ఓకే, సో ఇక్కడ మీరు చూస్తే ఒక నిమిషం, okay, so these two containers are up and running. Let's try to inspect these containers. Network ఇక్కడ root default ఉంది. At the same time see these two containers, okay, they are created with same network, okay, root default. So by default there will be communication between these two networks, but the UI will be different for you guys. So try చేయండి, ఇంటి దగ్గర మీరు ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసి ట్రై చేయండి. You should get different UI because నేను ఆల్రెడీ ఇన్స్టాల్ చేశాను కాబట్టి ఇలా వస్తుంది. అంటే first it will ask you for region, okay, it will ask you for region. ఓకే, ఇట్ ఆస్క్ ఫర్ రీజన్. మీరు రీజన్ ఎంటర్ చేసిన తర్వాత లోపలికి యూజర్ నేమ్ పాస్వర్డ్ అడుగుతుంది. అలా అడిగిన తర్వాత లోపలికి వెళ్ళిన తర్వాత ఇలా ఉంటుంది అనమాట డాష్ బోర్డ్. ఓకే, ఇలా డాష్ బోర్డ్ వస్తుంది. ఇక్కడ మీరు యూజర్స్ అని చూడండి సెక్షన్, ఇక్కడ యూజర్స్ లో యూజర్ క్రియేట్ చేయొచ్చు. ఓకే, ఐ వాంట్ టు షో దట్. Let's do one thing. Okay, Docker compose down. So if you use this Docker Compose down, what it is doing? It is deleting, stopping the container as well as it is deleting container. Now again, I want to Docker Compose off, and in the background it should create containers. Let's see what happens. So in the background it has created container. ఓకే సో ఒక పని చేయండి, ఖచ్చితంగా మీకు వర్క్ అవుతుంది. ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసినప్పుడు డాకర్ కంపోజ్ చెక్ చేయండి బ్రౌజర్లో 8080s. ఓకే, మీకు యూఐ ఎలా వస్తుందో చెక్ చేయండి. ఖచ్చితంగా అది రావాలి, అలా రావాలి. ఎలా అంటే ఫస్ట్ మీకు వర్డ్ ప్రెస్ అని వస్తుంది, వర్డ్ ప్రెస్ తర్వాత మీకు లాంగ్వేజ్ సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకోమని దాన్ని మీద క్లిక్ చేస్తే నెక్స్ట్ ఏమంటారు డీటెయిల్స్ అడుగుతుంది, లాగిన్ డీటెయిల్స్. మీరు లాగిన్ డీటెయిల్స్ ఏదైనా ఇవ్వచ్చు, మీ నేమ్, మీ ఈమెయిల్ ఐడి. ఓకే, సో అలా వస్తుంది. ఒకసారి ట్రై చేయండి. ఈస్ దిస్ టేకింగ్ టు దిస్ ఐపీ అడ్రస్? We'll do one more try. We'll down this and we'll create with new port one, new port. Oh, okay, we need to make it up. Here is my documentation, official documentation. ఓకే, ఇది కరెక్టే కమాండ్. సో ఒక పని చేయండి, మీరు ట్రై చేయండి ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసి డాకర్ కంపోజ్. ఓకే, హలో
ఎస్ సాయికిరణ్.
ప్రియాంక హరి, ఇందాక వర్డ్ ప్రెస్ మీకు కనిపించింది కదా డాక్యుమెంట్, ఏమంటారు వెబ్ పేజ్. సో అది వర్డ్ ప్రెస్ సేమ్. అలాగే మీకు వర్డ్ ప్రెస్ అది స్టార్టింగ్ పేజ్ ఒక వేరేలా వస్తుంది అనమాట. ఓకే, ఆ వేరేలా వస్తుంది. సేమ్ స్క్రిప్ట్ తోటి ట్రై చేయండి. ఒకవేళ మీకు రాకపోతే అప్పుడు నాకు చెప్పండి, దాని మీద మళ్ళీ ఒకసారి చూద్దాం. ఓకే, సో అది ఎలా వస్తుందంటే మీకు ఫస్ట్ లాంగ్వేజ్ సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకుని వస్తుంది. వచ్చిన తర్వాత దాని మీద మీరు క్లిక్ చేసిన తర్వాత లాగిన్ డీటెయిల్స్ అడుగుతుంది. మీరు ఏదైనా యూజర్ నేమ్ ఇవ్వచ్చు, ఏదైనా పాస్వర్డ్ ఇవ్వచ్చు. లోపలికి వెళ్తే డాష్ బోర్డ్ కనిపిస్తుంది. ఓకే, అలా రావాలి. యాక్చువల్లీ అది వర్క్ అవ్వాలి, అవుతుంది కూడా. ఇందాక నేను మీ క్లాస్ చెప్పే ముందు ఒకసారి చెక్ చేశాను, స్క్రిప్ట్ వర్క్ అయింది. బట్ ఇప్పుడు ఎందుకు మరి క్యాష్ ఇష్యూస్ ఉన్నాయో తెలియదు, కానీ అలా బిహేవ్ చేస్తుంది. మీకు ఫ్రెష్ గా మెషిన్ మీరు కొత్తగా ఇన్స్టాల్ చేస్తారు కదా, ఒకసారి ట్రై చేసి చూడండి. రాకపోతే నాకు చెప్పండి. ఓకే
ఓకే ఓకే.
సో థ్యాంక్ యూ ఆల్. నేను నేమ్ స్పేసెస్ అండ్ సి గ్రూప్స్ రేపు చూద్దాం. ఆల్రెడీ క్లాస్ 1 hour 20 minutes అయింది. ఓకే
ఓకే ఓకే.
థ్యాంక్ యూ, బాయ్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ.